Overnight, the entire world changed in a way I couldn't even begin to understand. Global prices collapsed 1,000,000 times over, to the point where 1 yuan could buy Mount Fuji and 2 yuan could buy Wall Street in the United States. But strangely, my money was the only thing that wasn't affected, and I had no clue any of this had happened. So there I was, going through a blind date arranged by my mom like nothing was wrong, sitting across from her as she looked at me seriously and said, "Let me be direct. If you want to marry me, you need a house of at least 100 square meters, a Jeep, and a bride price of 5 mao. And I blinked in confusion before asking, "What? 5 mao? She nodded like it was completely normal. "Yeah, 5 mao. And I couldn't help but frown and say, "Wait, are you joking with me?" She crossed her arms slightly and replied bluntly, "Let me say it clearly, poor guy." And I quickly shook my head, feeling like I misheard. "No, miss, I think I didn't hear you right. Are you sure it's 5 mao? But she looked at me firmly and said, "You heard correctly. The bride price is 5 mao. Not a single cent less if you want to marry me." And I just stared at her, completely thrown off, as she added, "I know what I'm asking is a lot, but my parents worked really hard to raise me." And in my head, I was already spiraling, wait, the bride price is really just 5 mao? Could she actually be some kind of hidden billionaire? And before I realized it, I muttered, "You're not some kind of tycoon, are you?" Which instantly made her glare at me as she snapped, "What nonsense are you talking about? If you can't afford it, then forget it." And then she waved her hand dismissively and added, "Don't worry, I won't take advantage of you. I'll even pay for this coffee myself, even if you only take out 1 yuan. And then with a cold tone, she finished, "Even if you cried and begged me with a huge bride price, I still wouldn't agree." And I just shook my head as I stood up, preparing to head home and continue my streaming career that was earning me $1 million a month. But right at that moment, my phone suddenly started vibrating. I picked it up and said, "Hello? Who is this?" And a voice came from the other side. "Hello, is this Mr. Senchen?" I frowned slightly. "Yes, that's me. What's going on?" And the man quickly explained, "The Subin 747 you purchased online has arrived in Shenzhen City. Since the item is extremely valuable, we need to confirm when it's convenient for you to pick it up in person." And I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. "What nonsense are you talking about? I only bought a model for fun, just leave it at the city's central station." But the man immediately panicked and said, "No sir, haha, you must be joking. This is a Boeing 747. Even if we had 10 times the courage, we wouldn't dare leave it randomly. You must be present in person." And I felt even more convinced they were crazy as I said, "A plastic model I bought for 3 yuan is being treated like a real plane from your province? Fine, fine. Where is it? I'll come later." And he quickly replied, "We're on the platform at Shenzhen International Airport. I'll send you the location." So in an attempt to save money, I casually stopped 2 buses on my way to the airport and asked, "Hey, how much is it to get to the airport?" And instantly every driver looked at me like I had completely lost my mind. One of them frowned and said, "How much? Kid, are you not awake yet? You've watched too many TV dramas. You can't even tell reality from fiction." Another scoffed. "Young people these days, your arrogance smells worse than feet, opening your mouth and talking about yuan." And someone else added mockingly, "Kid, don't cling to dreams of winning the lottery. Those overnight rich stories you see on TV, even 5 yuan is fake." Another voice chimed in. "Exactly. Just study hard and find a job where you can earn a few cents a month. That would already be like your ancestors' graves emitting green smoke." And as I listened to all of them, I felt more and more confused, thinking, what is wrong with these people today? The bride price was only 5 mao. I'm just trying to save bus fare and now I'm being looked down on. And I couldn't help but get a little angry, especially when one man in a suit looked at me with disgust and said, "Look at what you're wearing. Street stall clothes? So ugly. How much would you even be worth if we sold you for a few yanes?" And I glared at him. "Who do you think you are?" And he immediately snapped back arrogantly, "I'm the guardian of Shenzhen City. If you don't have money for the bus, then get off quickly." And I felt my patience snap as I stared at him and said, "Are you sick? What's wrong with asking how much the bus costs? Since when is asking about a few yuan something to feel superior about?" And the moment those words left my mouth, the entire bus erupted into chaos as people shouted, "Did you hear that? He said yuan, not mao, not cents, yuan." And another laughed, "Kid, you can dream, but don't mistake dreams for reality. It's easy to go insane." And someone else sneered, "A few yuan? If he can actually take out 1 yuan, I'll eat this entire bus." And at that moment, I just stood there, completely caught between confusion and disbelief, not realizing that everything I thought I understood about money had already been turned upside down. As I watched that group of people verbally attacking me, I could clearly see the man in the suit enjoying every second of it. His chest puffed up as a disgusting sense of superiority filled his face, and he clicked his tongue before saying, "Tisk, just a brat who hasn't even grown up yet, doesn't know his limits. It's just that uncle didn't bring his luxury car today because it's in maintenance. Did you get on the wrong bus?" Then he smirked and added, "If you don't have money, call me uncle. I'll give you money so you can take a ride. After all, my monthly salary is exactly 2.5 cents. And the people around him burst into laughter, their mocking voices overlapping as if they were enjoying a show. while I just stood there thinking, what the hell is wrong with people today? Why are they acting like this? Could it really be that the system is playing some kind of trick? This feels so fake. If rich people in this world only earn $1 million, then doesn't that mean I'm richer than an entire country right now? And that thought hit me so hard that I almost laughed, my mind drifting for a second as I remembered the girl from the blind date. She was actually pretty beautiful. Maybe I could just use money to shut her up next time. And before I realized it, my thoughts were already spiraling into something wild, like I was completely disconnected from reality, until someone suddenly shouted, "Hey, are you getting off or not? If not, get off the bus." And I snapped back, frowning as I said, "I just asked how much it costs. Are you all crazy?" But one of them scoffed and said, "Kid, you keep talking about UN this and UN that. Fine. If you can actually take out a few UN right now, how about I call you dad on the spot?" And at that moment, I didn't even hesitate. I simply reached into my pocket and took out the money, and the moment everyone saw it, the entire bus went silent. I casually tossed 4 coins into the air, watching them spin as they reflected light before falling back perfectly into my palm with a crisp metallic sound, and everyone around me froze, completely stunned, while I let out a small scoff and said, "It's just 1 UN. Why are you all making such a big deal?" But their eyes were glued to the coins in my hand. Someone muttered in disbelief, "That shine, that texture, those are real UN." Another stammered, "Impossible. How can it be real? That's 4 UN. How can you just take that out so casually?" And I could see their eyes following every movement as I casually flipped the coins again, like they were afraid they would fall to the ground and break. And when I finally caught them with one hand and slipped them back into my pocket without a care, the entire group reacted as if I had just thrown away something priceless. "What a waste," one of them cried. "What if it falls on the ground?" Another added nervously, "Yeah, what if it drops into the sewer by accident?" Someone even shouted, "If I had a son like that, I'd strangle him." And I just stood there, watching them lose their minds over a few coins, while another person suddenly leaned forward with shining eyes and said, "Look at him. He's definitely a rich second-generation kid." Then someone else shamelessly said, "Brother, you must have studied too much. I'm the school beauty. Even if I have to pay a few cents, I'm still a virgin." And I couldn't help but look at them like they were insane as I muttered, "Are you dreaming? It's obvious you're not serious." Then I turned my gaze back to the man in the suit and said coldly, Weren't you the one who said if it was real, you'd call me dad?" And the moment those words hit him, his face turned pale, completely lost. But as his eyes drifted toward my pocket, I saw something change instantly. The embarrassment in his expression twisted into pure greed, as if a thought had just crossed his mind, and he suddenly stepped forward and said shamelessly, "Wait, if you don't mind the age difference, I don't lose anything by recognizing a rich godfather." And then, without hesitation, he lowered his head and said, "Dad, my name is Gansey. You can call me Ganner." And I felt a wave of disgust as I snapped, "Get lost. That's disgusting." And as I looked at this group of crazy people, I finally became certain of one thing. Global prices had really collapsed, which meant that right now, I was richer than an entire country. And as that realization settled in, another thought suddenly appeared in my mind. If Liu Ruyan knew I had become a tycoon, wouldn't she jump straight into my arms? Right? After all, the aviation model I bought was supposed to be a birthday gift for her younger brother. I couldn't mess that up. So without wasting any more time, I immediately took a taxi to the airport, thinking about Liu Ruyan, the goddess of my university, someone I had been chasing for 3 years straight, and her little brother had always been helping me, so I had always been generous with him. And not long after, I opened the car door and stepped into the airport lobby, just about to call the customer service number from earlier, when suddenly my phone rang, and when I looked at the screen, it was her, Liu Ruyan, and instantly a surge of excitement rushed through me as I thought, "This is perfect. I can finally show her who I am now." So I picked up the call and said eagerly, "Hello, babe. I've already prepared Xiaowei's birthday gift. Where are you?" But her cold voice came through immediately. "Don't call me babe. I'm at the platform. Come here. I have something to tell you." And I paused slightly before replying, I'm at Shenzhen Airport too. What's going on?" And she sounded a bit impatient as she said, "You're at the airport too? Then go find a waiter and ask them to take you to the helipad. Just say, 'Manager Hang sent you.'" And I frowned, confused but still followed her instructions, walking over to the service area, giving Manager Hang's name, and before I knew it, I was already being led straight into the helicopter parking area of the airport, my mind still racing with everything that had just happened, and the feeling that something even bigger was about to unfold. I soon spotted Liu Ruyan standing there with her younger brother Yang Wei, and the moment I arrived, I noticed how Yang Wei kept staring excitedly at the helicopter in front of him as he said, "Wow. Look at this. This is a private helicopter. Incredible, right?" And I walked closer, trying to act natural as I said, "Ruyan, Xiaowei, you're here too. Perfect timing." But before I could even get near her, she immediately stepped back and said coldly, "Don't touch me, Chen Fen. Let's end this." And I froze for a second, completely caught off guard. "What? Don't be ridiculous. Isn't today Xiaowei's birthday?" But she looked at me without any emotion and said, "Who's joking with you? You're not worthy of me, do you understand?" And I felt something tighten in my chest as I said softly, "Ruyan, don't be like this. I'm not joking either. But she cut me off directly. Let's break up. And in that moment, my hand unconsciously clenched the 4 coins in my pocket, my expression slowly turning cold as I asked, then give me a reason. Haven't I treated you well enough? But before she could answer, Yang Wei stepped forward with a sneer and said, well, you call that treating her well? You dated my sister for 3 years and didn't even buy her a lipstick. And you still think you deserve to be my brother-in-law? Keep dreaming. And hearing that, I looked at him. The same kid I used to treat like my own younger brother, and felt something inside me snap, like anger was boiling over. But then another voice suddenly cut in. Yang Wei is right. You don't deserve to marry her. And I looked up only to see a man suddenly jumping down from the helicopter. A man in his early 30s who walked straight over and skillfully wrapped his arm around Liu Ruyan's waist while Yang Wei looked at me with open provocation and said proudly, brother-in-law, you finally came. And I frowned, staring at the man as I asked, who are you? And he smiled arrogantly. I'm the manager of this airline and also her current boyfriend. Then he pointed at the helicopter behind him and said, see this? It's mine. And since I'm in a good mood today, I'll give you a big red envelope. And with that, he casually took out a coin and tossed it over, saying, take it, don't be stingy. And Yang Wei immediately caught it, his face lighting up with excitement as he shouted, oh my God! 1 cent! Thank you, brother-in-law. And the people around chimed in, so generous. Brother-in-law is amazing. While Yang Wei laughed and said mockingly, see that? He just gave 1 cent. You wouldn't even earn this much in your entire life. And at that moment, I felt an indescribable sense of absurdity. They were this happy over just 1 cent. If I threw my 4 yuan at their faces, they'd probably be scared to death on the spot. And then the man looked at me coldly and said, kid, if you're smart, leave now. Otherwise, I'll call security to throw you out. While Yang Wei added impatiently, hurry up and get lost. Don't waste time here. Don't stop my sister from boarding a private helicopter. And as I looked at this entire group of clowns, a faint bloodthirsty glint flashed through my eyes, my voice dropping to an icy tone as I said, fine. I hope you won't regret this, Liu Ruyan. You white-eyed wolves will regret it one day. And when that time comes, don't come begging me for help. But Yang Wei immediately laughed. Beg you? With your pathetic loser life? And the man smirked arrogantly as he said, listen carefully. I own an entire Duan. This Robinson ER-44 helicopter costs only 3 yuan. Even a hair on my leg is thicker than your waist. What are you going to use to compete with me? And as he spoke, he even pinched Liu Ruyan's face playfully, while I let out a cold laugh and said, what are you laughing at? Your mental endurance is that weak? 3 yuan? The 4 steel coins in my pocket could probably buy this entire airport. And just as the tension was about to explode, someone suddenly said, what are you all arguing about? Don't you know a top VIP is about to arrive? And instantly everyone looked up, and I saw a man in a professional suit with black framed glasses walking toward us, and the moment Yang Wei saw him, his expression turned displeased as he said, who are you? Are you looking for trouble? But before he could finish, the arrogant man beside Liu Ruyan suddenly panicked and covered his mouth, his expression changing completely as he hurried forward with a respectful tone. President Chen, why are you here? This is just my friend. I'll take him away immediately. Immediately. And seeing this same man who was acting so high and mighty just moments ago suddenly become like a humble servant, even Liu Ruyan's gaze began to change, as if a single sentence from that man could make someone like him tuck his tail and leave, and I could almost see the calculations in her eyes. What kind of identity does this person have? Even someone earning 1 yuan a year is this afraid? Is he worth 50? Or even 100? If I could get close to him, I wouldn't have to look at that man's face anymore. And just as the arrogant guy was pulling Liu Ruyan away, preparing to leave, I found myself staring at President Chen with a strange sense of familiarity. And before I could stop myself, I said, hey, well, President Chen, your voice sounds familiar. Have we met somewhere before? And the moment those words left my mouth, the air around us froze instantly. The arrogant man's face turned pale as if his soul had left his body, and he rushed forward in panic, grabbing me tightly as he hissed, what nonsense are you talking about? How could Manager Chen have anything to do with someone like you? But President Chen simply glanced at them calmly, his tone lazy yet sharp as he said, what's wrong? Are you afraid I'll say something? And the moment he finished speaking, the man's expression turned even uglier, as if everything was about to spiral completely out of control. Even though that man still carried himself like someone with status, I could see the panic creeping into his eyes as he tried to force control over the situation. Then he looked at me and said in a low voice, fine, don't you want to take this chance to get some money from me? I promise you, once we get outside, I'll give you 50 cents. And after saying that, he grabbed President Chen's arm, trying to pull him away, but it was like pulling a rock that wouldn't budge, so he gritted his teeth and added, 1 cent? I'll give you 1 cent. That's a huge amount. It's half a month of my income. Don't be too greedy. And just as he was about to call security, President Chen suddenly froze, as if something clicked in his mind, his eyes widening as his chest started rising and falling rapidly. And then I saw a realization hit him like lightning. It's him. Isn't this the same voice from the phone this morning? Which meant I was the one. And he quickly took a deep breath to calm himself before suddenly shouting, "Let go!" which scared that arrogant guy so badly he instinctively stepped back, and as President Chen walked toward me, that same man became visibly nervous and tried to speak. Manager Chen, this guy, but he was completely ignored as President Chen closed the distance in just a few quick steps, stopping right in front of me before bowing a full 90 degrees and saying respectfully, "May I ask, are you Mr. Chen Chuan?" And in that instant, the entire place fell into a deathly silence. Lu Ruyan and Yang Wei both stood there with their mouths wide open like they had just seen something impossible, and I scratched my head slightly and said, "Yeah, that's me." Then I looked at him more closely and added, "Oh, I remember now, you're the delivery guy who called me this morning, right?" And the moment those words came out, the arrogant man beside him almost lost his mind as he shouted, "Do you want to die? This is the young master of the Inon Group. General Manager Chen, what delivery guy are you talking about?" And someone else even muttered in disbelief, "The young master personally delivering packages. Is the service industry that competitive now?" While Lu Ruyan shook her head in denial and said quickly, "You must be mistaken. He's just a poor loser. When he was with me, he couldn't even afford lipstick. How could he possibly be your distinguished guest?" And Yang Wei added impatiently, "Manager Chen, just throw him out. Don't let him dirty your eyes." But before anyone could move, President Chen suddenly shouted, "Who dares to touch him?" His voice carrying such authority that it instantly froze everyone in place. Then he pointed toward the distance and said, "Open your eyes and look carefully. That Boeing 747 that just landed was purchased entirely by Mr. Chen Chuan." And as everyone followed the direction of his finger, I could see their faces turn pale as they stared at the massive aircraft shining under the sunlight, making the helicopter beside it look like nothing more than a toy. And someone stammered, "A Boeing 747? That's a god-level machine worth an astronomical 32 million. If I sold you, you wouldn't even be worth a fraction of it. How could he possibly afford that?" And just as they were all on the verge of suffocating from shock, I scratched my head again, completely confused, and said, "Wait, you must be mistaken. I only bought a plain model. I was planning to give it to my future brother-in-law as a birthday gift." And the moment Lu Ruyan heard that, it was like she grabbed onto a lifeline as her expression instantly changed and she said eagerly, "See, I told you. He admitted it himself. It's just a cheap model. You almost fooled us." But President Chen didn't react to her at all and simply said, "Mr. Chen Chuan, please provide the order information." And I casually handed him my phone, not thinking much of it, but the moment he glanced at the screen, his pupils shrank instantly, his entire body freezing before he slowly looked up at me and said with absolute certainty, "There's no mistake, this is a Boeing 747, and it was indeed purchased entirely by Mr. Chen Chuan." And that final confirmation hit Liu Royan and the others like a thunderbolt, leaving them completely stunned as they muttered, "Impossible. How could he have done that? That's 32.1 million. Even the entire market value of the Inon Group is only 50 million. He casually spent over 30 million?" And I couldn't help but feel a little awkward as I said honestly, "When I saw it, it was only priced at 3,210. I thought it was a replica model. Who would have thought they'd send a real one?" And everyone around me went completely silent. While I continued casually, "Honestly, something this big, I don't even know how to operate it, and keeping it at home would just take up space. If I knew it was real, I wouldn't have bought it. A model would have been better." And hearing that, they all looked at me like their brains had stopped working, as if they couldn't process what I just said, while the arrogant man's face turned pale with despair, as if he wanted to die on the spot. Probably thinking, he thinks a real airplane takes up space. What kind of mindset is this? While Lu Ruyan stood there like she had lost her soul, muttering to herself, still unable to accept reality. But then, President Chen smiled slightly and said respectfully, "Mr. Chen Chuan, you're quite humorous. All procedures have been completed. Would you like to board and inspect your aircraft?" And I waved my hand lazily. "Forget it. I'm too lazy to move. It's just a toy worth a few thousand yuan, not worth inspecting." And hearing that, even I almost choked on my own words, because to them, that toy was a Boeing 747, something they couldn't even dream of touching. And right then, a beautiful woman in a fitted suit came running over, slightly out of breath as she handed over a document and said, "President Chen, here's the transfer contract you requested." And President Chen nodded before turning to me and saying respectfully, "Mr. Chen Chuan, if everything looks fine, please sign here below. This Boeing 747 is now yours," he said, and I just glanced over the contract he handed me before casually signing my name. Then I shrugged and muttered, "Sigh. Returning it would be too troublesome anyway. I'll just accept it reluctantly," even though just thinking about returning something like this already sounded like a headache. And as soon as the paperwork was done, he smiled respectfully and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Chen. This Boeing 747 officially belongs to you now. And at that moment, Liu Ruyan, who had been standing there completely stunned, suddenly snapped back to reality as she shouted, "Impossible! You're lying! Chen Fen, you're a liar! This must be your plan, right? You're trying to trick me so I'll regret it, aren't you? Kubota, this man, he's not really the general manager of your company, right? You got it wrong earlier, didn't you?" And she completely lost control, grabbing Kubota by the collar and shaking him violently like she had gone insane, unable to accept any of this as she kept yelling, "Why? Why? After I left you, you suddenly transformed and bought a plane? That's 3,000 yuan. That's enough for an ordinary person to live worry-free for life. The way you bought it so casually means you must have even more money. You said I was your girlfriend. You would have bought me a good car, a big house, all kinds of luxury goods. I can't accept this." And her outburst instantly drew everyone's attention, while Kubota's face turned completely pale because he had hoped I'd already forgotten about him. But now she dragged him right back into the spotlight, making it impossible for me not to notice him, and he immediately snapped, "You crazy woman, get lost! Stop causing a scene here!" And when she kept going, he suddenly slapped her hard across the face, the sound echoing sharply as a bright red handprint appeared instantly on her cheek, and she froze, staring at him in disbelief. You actually hit me!" But he didn't care at all, glaring at her coldly as he said, "Shut up. If you say one more word, you'll regret it." Then he awkwardly turned to the crowd, rubbing his hands and forcing a laugh. "Sorry about that. She suddenly went crazy. I was afraid she'd hurt someone. Security, get these people out of here." And hearing that, Yang Wei immediately panicked, his thoughts racing as he muttered to himself, "No, this can't be happening. Chen Fen is so rich now, he even bought a Boeing 747. If we just ask him, not only can we stay, we might even get into the cockpit. Maybe if we make him happy, I could even ask for the plane as a bride price." And with that desperate thought, he suddenly gathered his courage and ran up to me, grabbing my arm as he pleaded, "Brother Chen, they want to kick me and my sister out. Please help us." And as he shook me, my hand slipped out of my pocket, and at that exact moment, the 4 coins fell out with it, clinking onto the ground, and instantly, everything went silent. Time itself seemed to freeze as every single pair of eyes locked onto those 4 shining coins on the floor, their breathing almost stopping as someone whispered, "That shine, those are real coins, 4 yuan. He was really carrying them in his pocket." And another voice trembled, "Carrying such wealth on you, this is what a true god of wealth looks like." While Yang Wei stared at the coins with bloodshot eyes, his greed completely exposed, saliva almost dripping as he muttered, "Money, it's really money. The kind of 1 yuan coins you only see on TV. Then he suddenly looked up at me and said eagerly, "Brother-in-law, as long as you help us, I'll make my sister get back together with you." "Really? Come on, just apologize to her quickly. These 4 yuan, what are you going to do with them anyway? Since you like my sister, just give these 4 yuan as the bride price and I'll agree to let you reconcile. How about that? It's a great deal, sis. Hurry! 4 yuan as a bride price." And finally, Liu Rian snapped out of her daze, quickly fixing her hair before running toward me, her voice trembling as she said, "Chen Fen, I know I was wrong. Let's get back together. It was that bastard Kubota who tricked me. You're the only one in my heart. Let's reconcile. Tonight I'll go home with you." And Yang Wei immediately backed her up. "Yes, Brother Chen, my sister knows she was wrong. We were both deceived by that guy. Now we understand everything. Let's go back to how things were before." And as I watched the two of them shamelessly putting on this act, I couldn't help but let out a laugh, stepping back slowly as I clapped my hands. Ha ha! An ungrateful person will always be ungrateful. Have you already forgotten the 1 cent he gave you earlier? Weren't you calling him brother-in-law just now? So why are you clinging to a loser like me now? And the moment my words hit them, both of them froze on the spot, completely speechless. For a moment, they were completely lost, not knowing what to do, and just then, 2 airport security guards had already arrived, causing Kubota's face to light up with excitement as he immediately pointed and shouted, "Quick, throw those 2 out! Don't let them dirty Mr. Chen's eyes." And hearing that, both Liu Ruyan and Yang Wei instinctively looked at me, neither of them daring to act recklessly anymore. While Kubota grew impatient and snapped, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and throw them out. Can't you understand what I'm saying?" And the 4 guards exchanged glances before moving forward to drag the siblings away. But Yang Wei panicked and struggled, shouting, "No, I finally got here. I haven't even boarded a helicopter yet. I haven't even seen the cockpit of a Boeing 747. As he kept backing away before suddenly turning and running toward the helicopter, but there was no way he could compete with trained security, and Liu Ruyan was quickly pushed to the ground, then lifted up by 2 guards and brought right in front of me, while Kubota was still standing there smugly enjoying the scene, until suddenly my voice cut through, "Wait!" And he froze, turning his head stiffly toward me, only to see me staring at him coldly as I said, "There's another piece of trash here that should be thrown out too." And the moment those words hit him, cold sweat instantly broke out across his forehead as he forced a smile and stammered, "Manager Chen, please judge clearly. I'm the manager here. What do you mean?" But I let out a faint scoff and said, "As far as I know, Manager Yin, you're already married, right? You're damaging the company's reputation. From now on, you're fired. And his face turned pale instantly as he tried to explain desperately, Yes, I'm married, but Manager Chen, But he was cut off immediately. Enough. Our airline cannot afford to keep someone like you. Get out. And hearing that, he completely lost control, dropping to his knees without caring about anything else as he begged, Manager Chen, I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. But when he saw that I didn't react at all, he turned toward me instead, his voice trembling. Mr. Chen, I really didn't know she was your girlfriend. If I had known, even with 10,000 times the courage, I wouldn't dare offend you. But his begging only made the impatience in President Chen's eyes grow clearer. And with a simple wave of his hand, he ordered, Take him away. And just like that, Kubota was dragged off screaming like a pig being slaughtered, his voice fading as peace finally returned, and I let out a quiet sigh. Finally, some peace. Before bending down to slowly pick up the 4 coins from the ground, and President Chen couldn't help but smile slightly as he said, I thought a god of wealth like you wouldn't care about such a small amount of money. And I casually replied, no matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat, as I tossed the 4 coins lightly into the air and caught them firmly again. While the secretary beside us watched with her heart in her throat thinking, 4 yuan. That's a huge sum. What if he misses and they fall into the sewer? She had seen rich people throwing money around before, but never someone casually playing with a few yuan like they were marbles. And that effortless, carefree attitude made me seem even more untouchable. Like a true top-tier god of wealth, every gesture filled with a kind of noble extravagance that made people wonder if I was the heir of some great family, yet even I felt a tiny bit nervous inside, though I didn't show it. And then I heard someone say in disbelief, seriously, he just spent 3,210 yuan on a plane without blinking, and now he's bargaining over 4 yuan. And those words left the secretary in a casual suit completely stunned. Because she hadn't been there earlier, and had no idea I had casually bought an airplane, she had thought tossing coins was already peak extravagance. But compared to this, buying a model that turned into a real plane was something else entirely. And she could only shake her head with a bitter smile, wondering if this was some bizarre hobby of the ultra-rich. While President Chen then looked at me and said, all right, stop joking. Thank you for today. You helped me vent my anger. But people don't do things without a reason, young Master Chen. Someone as humble as you must be asking for something, right? Just say it. And I laughed lightly. Ha ha ha. Is it that obvious? And he nodded. Very obvious. So I said, all right, let's eat first. We'll talk while eating. Get in the car. And just like that, the scene shifted, and soon the two of us were sitting in an elegant cafe where he leaned back and said, all right, now tell me, what are you planning to do with that Boeing 747? And I shrugged casually. What else can I do? Just leave it there? I don't even know how to fly it. Treating it like a giant display model isn't bad either. And he looked at me like he didn't even know how to respond. A giant display model, a 3,210 yuan airplane just for decoration? Before shaking his head and saying, what I mean is, since it's just sitting there, why not lease it to our airline? The price is negotiable. And I raised an eyebrow slightly. Lease it? Your prestigious airline is short on planes? And he sighed helplessly. Short? Extremely short. Don't be fooled by the fact that we have 20 planes. They're all just for show. When he said they had 20 planes, I casually calculated in my head and muttered, 20. Even if one unit deals around 6,000 in damage, that's 120,000 total. And you're telling me you can't even come up with such a small amount of money? And the moment the words 120,000 small yuan came out of my mouth, I could see it hit Chen Hang like bricks as he almost spat out his coffee, staring at me like I had just said something absurd, before replying, brother, do you think everyone treats money as lightly as you do? Even top airlines rarely buy planes outright. Most of them lease from banks. Planes are just too expensive. We work ourselves to death for a whole year and the profit isn't even enough to buy a single wing. And I frowned slightly and said, so you're telling me you run an airline but can't even afford a plane that costs just a few thousand yuan? Then what's the point of running a company? Might as well go back and farm. And hearing that, he clutched his chest dramatically like he was about to have a heart attack, mumbling, heavens, is this even human language? Not being able to afford a plane worth a few thousand means we should go farm? Is this really the gap between people? And as I listened, something suddenly clicked in my mind. Wait, this means their airline earns tens of millions a year, works endlessly, and still can't make 3,210 yuan profit? Then I realized something even crazier. My system gives me a monthly income. I could literally buy their entire company and still have money left over. And I couldn't help but sigh internally. This is just too outrageous. While he cautiously looked at me and asked, so Mr. Chen, does that mean you agree? And I nodded casually. Of course, leaving it there will just make it rust. Might as well use it to earn some fuel money. Come on, let's sign. And he instantly lit up. Great. As for the lease terms, we'll adopt a financial leasing model, and the return rate will be calculated quarterly. But I waved my hand impatiently and cut him off. All right, stop with all that nonsense. Just tell me directly, how much pure profit can this plane make in a year, excluding maintenance and fuel? And he thought for a moment before answering, around 300 a year. And I blinked, confused. Sell it? And he shook his head quickly. No, 300 yuan. And I stared at him in disbelief. You're telling me I bought a plane for 3,210 yuan and it'll take 10 years just to recover the cost? Are you doing business or charity? And he sighed helplessly. That's just how the market works. A plane's lifespan is about 20 years. The first 10 years are for recovering costs, and the next 10 years are profit. This is already considered a high-return project. And I shook my head slightly. Forget it. Even a little meat is still meat, right? Then I leaned back and said casually, let's not complicate things. You said 300 a year, right? Then just transfer me 25 yuan per month for the next 20 years. During that time, you can use the plane however you want. Consider it a thank you. And he froze for a second, almost unable to believe what he just heard. That's it? No collateral, no guarantees, 25 yuan a month? Isn't that basically like renting a shared bicycle? And I looked at him calmly and said, so, are you doing it or not? And he immediately nodded excitedly. We're doing it. Let's sign right now. And without wasting another second, he respectfully handed me the contract. And after I signed it, he smiled broadly and said, Mr. Chen, it's a pleasure doing business with you. If you have any small deals like this in the future, please make sure to contact me. And as I sat there, casually holding what would soon be a steady income of 25 yuan per month in my hands, I couldn't help but lean back slightly and think, so this is what it feels like? A boring life of making money without doing anything. Huh.